Welcome everyone to PEGTV's 27th annual meeting, and it's also our 30th anniversary celebration of being incorporated. So thank you. So don't get your slide rules out because the math doesn't add up. We were at this a lot longer than we've been incorporated. We started sometime in the mid-'80s. And also I'd like to make an announcement. This is my first annual meeting where I need to use reading glasses. I'd like to recognize a few of our legislators that are in the audience. Senator Brian Collmore is here tonight. Senator Collmore, yeah, there he is. Representative Mary Howard is here. Mary, yeah. Representative Paul Clifford is in the room. And from the Board of Aldermen, we have Kiana McClure. Kiana? So, and I also want to give a round of applause to Dave Jeffords and the staff at Southside Steakhouse. What a terrific presentation. Yeah. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my longtime friend that I met in college back in the 1900s, the current board president of PEGTV, Stephanie Wilson.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. So nice to see you all in person here. This is amazing. It's been since 2019, so it's amazing how your energy just fills up the room, and hearing all those voices and the clinking silverware, and it's a very welcome sound. So I'm glad you could all make it here tonight. Really appreciate your coming. So I would like to convene our meeting this evening officially, and in our first motion that I'm going to be needing, it will be to approve the 26th annual meeting minutes of May 9th of 2022. May I have a motion? Thank you. Nancy will be recording these, luckily not me. And may I have a second? Second. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you so much. Tonight I would like to recognize the PEGTV volunteer board members. This is a group that I've had the pleasure of working with for a number of years now, and mostly we've been meeting on Zoom, which is, it started out as started out as something we had to do for COVID, and ended up being something that we continued to do just because of convenience, and it was great for attendance, and I don't know, it was efficient. So I don't always get to see these people all together in one room, so I'd like to say thank you to our wonderful board of directors for all your hard work and your dedication, and for making us laugh in a very sort of awkward Zoom environment. You know, people are funny when you hear laughter throughout a Zoom meeting, and it's not just constant, unmute, so that's when you know you have a funny and fun group of people to be with, and that would be not including myself in the fun and funny, but so I am the president of this group, and then Sherry Berkheimer-Rooker is our vice president, and then the talented Jerry Carbine is our treasurer. He makes sense of the financials for people like me. And Nancy Donahue of our staff, and who basically made this beautiful evening for us tonight, organized us. She said not to mention her, but I am mentioning her because she is amazing, and she is our secretary. Thank you, Nancy. And Nancy would say, don't mention me, but you're amazing. Okay. And then, thank you. And Steve Dardek is also a very valued board member of ours. Thank you, Steve. Jerry Hansen and Terry Jurassic who has brought his dulcet tones back to the radio. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Ed Kelly, also of the dulcet tones. Thank you for being with us tonight. And then finally, I would like to just a quick I'd like to honor Anna White, who's with us this evening. This is her last day with us, I guess, as part of the board, but we hope that you will come back and join us because Anna has done that in the past. So we're hoping she will do it again in the future. And if I could just say, Anna, she served on the board for 12 years, but for 2 separate times. So basically, she came on in 2007, hope I'm getting that right, and served for 6 terms, and then she took a little time off and came back for 6 more years with us. And Anna, I don't think we could have really done without your experience, particularly in human resources. Anna's done a lot in terms of coming up with employee policies for us, reviewing yearly employee reviews, that kind of thing. She has written job descriptions. She's just helped in so many ways with the staff and with the board. And she's also helped us with recruiting, which is why we have one of the best staffs in Rutland County, I must say. So round of applause for the staff and for Anna. So Anna, you've served 12 years with us. We hope you'll come back for 6 more at some point. But now that you're retired, I bet you have a lot of really fun things to do. But Anna has said that the best part of her job was spending time with wonderful board members, PEGTV leaders, and staff. And we really thank you for everything you've done for us. Thanks, Anna. Okay, so next we are going to have our PEGTV committee reports, and we'll start out with the treasurer's report from Jerry Carbine. And come on up, Jerry.
I can't do it from my seat.
I asked the same question. They said no.
No, you got to come up here. Hello, everybody. So, first off, I can't take any credit for anything that I'm about to say because I'm new, and whatever I'm about to say it was given to me. So I didn't do anything. I just sat around and did stuff. And Tom told you earlier that he doesn't know anything about numbers. So are you telling me all the financial reports are not true? Well, because Nancy does them, right? That's right. Okay. So I just got to give those two and the whole staff a whole lot of credit because this is an organization that is very precious to the community, and I hope people understand that and appreciate it because they work very hard, and they do a great job. So now for my written reports. PEGTV's funding is holding steady, even though most of the funding comes from cable TV, and people have been saying for a long time that cable's on the decline. But the revenues are holding steady, so that's a good thing. Last year, PEGTV had a surplus, and because of that, it's given us some opportunities to, number one, reinvest in some equipment and technologies that were needed, beginning to be needed. And importantly, hiring educated and talented staff that we continue to have and continue to work for us. And we've also enhanced the benefits in the salaries for those employees. And we've also begun to set aside some reserves for that future time when those revenues will start to decline. So even if the revenues of cable TV start to decline, PEGTV is going to be around for a number of years to serve the community. So it is a nonprofit corporation, but the financials are public. I'm not going to go into any numbers tonight, but if anybody's really interested, can't see that you would be, but if you're very interested in seeing the financials, you're welcome to stop in at the office and review them because they're open to the public. And again, I'd just like to thank the staff for all their hard work, and they've just been doing a great job. So thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. Jerry is very modest, but we like to say that he eats spreadsheets for breakfast, and really does live and breathe these numbers. He's so good at it. So may I have a motion to approve Jerry's report, his treasurer's report? Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. We'll move on. We also have a nominating committee report at this time. And we would like to nominate proposed new board member Tracy Moore from Rutland Regional Medical Center. Bless you, for the term 2023 to 2026. And I'm just going to say on a personal note that I've known Tracy. She was just a year ahead of me in high school. And Tracy, I looked up to you then, and I've been looking up to you ever since. And I'm so happy to have you on our board. I'm glad we get to spend that time together. And I know you're going to love the group, and we're all going to love having you. So with that said, may I have a motion to approve this nomination for Tracy? Thank you. And a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I don't know.
See what I mean? Get used to it now, Tracy. This is what the meetings are like. Okay. Thank you, Terry. Okay. All right, so, okay. Now I'm all off track. All right, have I done what I'm supposed to? Okay, now I'd like to bring Tom back up for the executive director's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Welcome aboard, Tracy. I don't care what Terry J says about you. I know he frequently says you're the meanest person in town, but so far he's the only one that's have said that. So. I'd like to take this time to introduce my wonderful staff. None of this that gets done I could do on my own. Part of the charm of PEGTV is the people that it attracts. That's one of my favorite parts of the job, is to get to meet all these wonderful, talented people, and the staff is not an exception. I'm going to go in order of seniority. And I know she doesn't like the attention, but I have the most fantastic office manager in the whole world. Such attention to detail, always right there. And the board's not going to like me to say this, but she's bailed me out many, many times. Just past the 20-year mark, ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Donahue. Next up is our Channel 1075 and 1095 coordinator, Chelsea Vogel. Chelsea has the unique adjective attached to her name. She's the only person in PEGTV history to have actually been a program coordinator for all three of the channels. One time she was 1075, well, she's 1075 and 1095 now, and she was 1085 prior to other staff arrival. So she has that moniker to her name. Chelsea just passed the 8-year mark. She's very talented, as you know, very well adept at all the equipment, and she's an expert at streaming video. So Chelsea Vogel, ladies and gentlemen. This next fella, the pandemic kind of did to us what it did to everybody else. I lost a lot of staff members, so I put out the dragnet to see if I could find some replacements. And I was at a gathering, and the guy says, "I got a friend that might be interested in that." And I'm like, "Okay, have him look us up." So I get this application in, and I call the guy and call him in for an interview. And his wife apparently tells him, "Make sure you know where the building is." The House Center can be very confusing, so make sure you know where the building is. So the day of the interview, he decides not to do that, and he goes to the wrong building. So he is now our Channel 1085, the government channel coordinator. He's been with us for 2.5 years, and he brought his wife with him tonight so he could find the party. That's Rich Alnicki, ladies and gentlemen. Have you heard of that show, Undercover Boss? Well, one day I had a board member call me and say, I'd like to talk to you. And when a board member calls you out of the blue and says, I want to talk to you, it's never an easy feeling. So I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely, come on in. So I thought I was going to get some kind of reprimand, and it didn't turn out that way. It turned out that this board member was actually interested in working at PEGTV. So it created a problem for me because I'll have a new employee, but I'll lose a board member. So, and this guy came to us in September of 21. He's fantastic at marketing, whiz at graphic arts. If you look at our Facebook page and you see the post where we promote some of our programs, it's all due to this fellow. His creativity is amazing. And that's he's been with us for just about 2 years now. That's Jim Boughton, the fellow right here. And the fellow standing behind the microphone has just passed 28 years with PEGTV. So, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. We wouldn't be anywhere without our field producers. That group is basically the boots on the ground. They're the ones that cover our sports. They cover our board meetings. They cover special events. Basically, anytime there's something in the community, we've done a lot with Lyle and Crispin here from Cedar. Anytime there's an event that we think the community wants to see and we're here to help nonprofit organizations, we rely on these people. And the fellow behind the camera right now has been with us for 10 years. He's supposed to be at a board meeting tonight, but I coaxed him into recording this for us tonight, and he hasn't been to a PEGTV party in quite some time. He's really been on the spot, anything we need. Bill Shimilewski, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. The rest of our field producers are actually out covering meetings right now, but I'd like to go through the list. Many of you knew Chris McCormick. He was with us for about 21 years, I think. He retired a few years ago, but I still wanted to keep a McCormick in the building. So we hired his brother Greg. Greg's been with us for 2 years, and he's out covering a meeting tonight, I think in Killington or Wallingford. So Greg McCormick. Also, there's another Wilson that's involved with PEGTV, and he just happens to be the son of our board president. He also covers meetings and events for us. Stephen Wilson, been with us for 2 years now. And there's another Donahue that's on the employee list. Yeah. Chris Donahue does meetings and games for us, and he's been with us for about 1.5 years. So let's give a hand to all the field producers. I'd also like to thank the members of the Vermont Access Network. There's an umbrella organization that houses all of the access stations in Vermont. There's 24 of them. They do a lot of work, and we are faced with some challenges in the future due to some cable revenue drops. They're doing a lot of work right now to try to counteract that. I also want to thank the Rutland County delegation that's here. You folks have always been receptive to my emails, my questions, and you've always supported PEGTV in many areas. Tom Donahue, I don't know what I can say about Tom Donahue. This guy here has been involved with PEGTV almost since day one. I think the first time I ever did a studio shoot, it was with Tom Donahue. My first time in flight was in a stunt plane because of Tom Donahue. And that's actually true. My first time in flight was in a stunt plane. This guy... Yeah. So, and I figured if something happened, at least my demise would make front page news. So, Tom stays on the air all night for us, live, on election night. I don't know how he does that. I mean, I'm nervous up here right now, and Tom stays on the air live for us. He knows so much about local politics. And it gets watched. I mean, people go out of their way to make sure they can watch us on election night. He's been a former board member, a former board president. He helps us pack the house with people from Brock. And he's just a great asset to have. So give a round of applause to Tom Donahue right here. I also want to thank Comcast on a local level. They've been very helpful. Melissa Pierce, Manager of Government and Regulatory Affairs. Greg Babcock, technician. Jeff Bates, technician. Chris Young, technician. Kyle Therian and Simon Turgeon. They work very hard to keep us on the air. And also the VTEL network. We've been on VTEL since 2014. They were the first ones to make us high def and also put us on the interactive program guide. So the folks that don't have Comcast can watch our programming on VTEL. I want to thank the Ralton Herald for all the supporting articles and editorials that they've done. Jim Sabotasso has organized and hosted some political forums for us. So 30 years. I've actually been involved with this organization for all of those 30 years. I took the VIP course with Bruce Nelson in 1993 as a volunteer. And I was going through some college books and I found an old schedule in one of those books that I was using for a bookmark. And it's actually over there on the display. The first thing I handed in was a stand-up comedy routine. And Bruce Nelson, with his own sense of humor, he put the word comedian in quotation marks. So if you see that schedule over there, that was actually the work of Bruce. And coincidentally, that stand-up routine was recorded at a club on Center Street that was owned by Paul Clifford, representative. Paul was foolish enough to hand me a microphone at open mic night. I never became funny enough to quit my day job. But thanks for the effort, Paul. We've started two new programs to celebrate the past. We have a program called Sports Rewind, which is extremely popular. We found a bunch of old games in the basement of the Longfellow building that we remastered and have put back on the air. The most popular of which, according to YouTube, is the 58th annual RHS MSJ game in 1991. The other program is called Video Vault. If it's not sports, it's just old shows that we're putting on. That most popular one is the Parade of Trains from 2006. So it's very interesting, and people are really enjoying taking a look at the past. And we're continuing to move into the future as well. We did some major upgrades at City Hall and the Longfellow building after 30 years of lugging equipment back and forth. I finally told the folks at Longfellow and the folks at City Hall it's time to move in. It's really time to move in. So with the approval of my board, we purchased permanent equipment. So everything down there is remote control, multiple cameras, and the video and the audio is gorgeous. So I really appreciate my board for okaying that, and we'd like to continue that kind of thing in the future. Our channel reassignments, as you remember, we used to be channel 15, 20, and 21. It was in the order of PEG, and now it's not. It's on Comcast, it's PG&E. That caused quite a bit of confusion, and we had to do quite a bit of marketing. I didn't want to change the logo to PG&E because that's the company that Aaron Brockovich brought down. As much as I'd like to meet Julia Roberts, and VTEL, we're 163, 164, and 165. It is still PE&G on VTEL. So some of the big things we've done Stuff-A-Bus updates. We've been involved with Stuff-A-Bus since I started working in 1995 as an employee. That was one of my first assignments, was to go down and do Stuff-A-Bus with Terry and Nancy. So I have a fond connection to that organization. They do a lot of good work. This year our YouTube subscribers went up by 560 subscribers. For the first time ever, we did 3 live parades instead of 1. And also, with Stephanie's help, we still do the Royal Pumpkin Pageant live at the studio. And I want to say thank you to Stephanie and the entire board of directors for your guidance and support. There has been a lot of challenges, but you guys have been fantastic. I'm really going to miss Anna. I really didn't know what HR was until I met Anna. She's been a great help because you all know me. I need HR sometimes. So, Anna, we're really going to miss you big time. So take a year off, maybe, and come back. And actually, like Steph mentioned, she did complete 2 6-year terms with us, which is a great accomplishment. So thank you for that. And if you notice this display here, we kind of did a little bit of a highlight video where we took footage from many, many years and compiled it. Every single Hall of Famer is in there. One snippet of every Hall of Famer, except for Jim Cale. I couldn't find any video of Jim Cale. Audio I could find, but I think he doesn't show up on film. So if you watch that, we didn't want to play it because it's about 40 minutes long, but you can see it here, and it's also available on YouTube. And we also did this fun thing where we went through the progression of recording media throughout the years. And it's really changed a lot from a big giant tape down to just digital format now. It's for the better. The technology right now is for the better. So, with that, I made a mess up here. Stewart Ledbetter is a veteran of Vermont media and anchor and senior reporter at NBC5 in South Burlington. A reporter by nature, Stewart edited his high school paper, volunteered at WRUV-FM while a student majoring in economics at UVM, and wound up as station news director. He joined Burlington's top radio stations and got his first taste of State House and City Hall reporting soon after. In 1984, Stewart joined NBC5 and gravitated toward statewide politics, business news, and the legislature, starting with Governor Madeline Cunan's historic election. He later spent 10 years as station news director, hiring young reporters, expanding newscasts, and designing its first website before returning to the street once again in 2000. Stewart has become a longtime contributor to Vermont PBS, moderating political debates, and has served as a longtime host of Vermont This Week, the popular Friday PBS political roundtable. He has earned 20 first-place awards from the Vermont and New York Associated Press for his reporting, a regional Emmy for Champlain 2000, an environmental series, and national Edward R. Murrow Award for continuing coverage. In 2019, Stewart was inducted into the Vermont Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He lives in Winooski. Yesterday I watched him on NBC5 In Depth at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Today he's here live. Ladies and gentlemen, Stewart Ledbetter.
Thank you, Tom. I need to prove that I was here. So I'm going to take a picture of all of you. Oh, God, John Blomer, can you not give me the scowl? Thank you. I didn't know you were going to read that thing, Tom. I would have edited it.
Can't leave any of it out. It's all good.
Oh, so, okay. You've been talking to my mom. Thank you very much for the invitation, Stephanie. It was great to hear from you and to say yes. Rutland, it's great to be here in person and not looking at you over a TV screen. Rutland is, it's not home, it's on the way home. I grew up in Manchester, and I have come to know and hate Route 7, along with all of you. But it was fun to come down this afternoon and drive through town. I got here a little early and see all that is happening in downtown Rutland along Center Street with your parklets, and which, you know, Burlington does not have a monopoly on those, I've discovered. It's after the 2 lost years of the pandemic, it's nice to have things sort of feel normal again. I asked Stephanie, well, what do you want me to say? I'm a political reporter. You don't want me to talk about politics. I'm also a media guy, and which, well, maybe a little of both. So that's what you're going to get. First, as I mentioned, I grew up in Manchester, a small town 30 miles to the south, and it was a great place to grow up. But when my brother and I would get a little bored with the small town environment, we'd say, "Dad, we need to go to the big city." And he said, "Well, what'd you have in mind?" And I said, just either north or south. And it was either Bennington or Rutland. Well, we would always come to Rutland because, Rutland had 2-screen movie cinemas, not just one. And you had a mall. And that was a big thing. Now in America, malls are dead and nobody goes, I shouldn't say nobody, but we stream video now. And the world has changed, and that's really not, it's only a slight exaggeration. But, to the point that Tom was making, the technology, and this table over here, which I was looking at before dinner, really tells the story. In the 80s, when I first got into Vermont media, we had a bureau in Rutland, and we had one reporter here and a salesperson here, and the technology was creaky, so half the time she would go out on one of those 3/4-inch cassettes, which is the size of a novel, and would edit furiously, and she had to time her editing to get her tape on the Vermont Transit bus from Rutland to get it up to Burlington in time for the 6 o'clock news. Well, some days that worked, and many days it did not. And you could tell when you watched the evening news. That's all changed now. I mean, now, in the old days, the Rutland Herald and the Burlington Free Press duked it out every day for the lead story. There were 3 television stations, but there was a dominant one in Vermont for sure, and it was not mine. And I understand that. There was a substantial daily paper in every substantial town in Vermont, and they did pretty well. There was radio news, and VPR, Vermont Public, had no newsroom to speak of. Fast forward. Still 3 TV stations, much more robust and very competitive now. The Free Press is a shadow of its former self. Many papers are struggling. Streaming news is everywhere, and the largest newsroom in Vermont doesn't publish. It's called Digger. The world has changed, but regional services like PEGTV, and I visited many of the public access facilities around Vermont over the years. It really fills a critical gap in this new media landscape. Technology, as Tom said, has driven the change. A single television camera, a field camera, Channel 5, when I first became aware of this in the mid-'80s, was $40,000 to buy. And it came in a big plastic case with lots of padding and casters on the bottom, and it took 2 people to lift. That's what I hauled around when I started. Now, for $500 at Best Buy, you can get a camera that's infinitely superior. You can get a cell phone that transmits high-definition video, which you can email to any address in the world for free, including to TV stations, which is why we and everybody else use that stuff all the time. It's absolutely been a game changer. We have little devices that transmit video and reporter live shots in real time using double cell tower technology. We call them TVUs. Use them at the State House all the time. No more clunky satellite trucks, although we have one. It's a very expensive paperweight in the garage, but we use these TVUs now all the time because they're cheap. And again, the technology has driven a tremendous change. I remember, true story, when I was first starting out, I was 23 or something, and Burlington had just elected a very controversial mayor who liked to get his face on television. You may have heard of him. He hauled us into City Hall, into his office, And Bernie Sanders said, all right, Stewart, are you ready? No. I said, it's Mayor, I need a minute. And in those days, you had to manually white balance your camera. Now, I know for some of you guys who aren't technical, now you just hit a button, or sometimes it just happens automatically. But in those days, you had a little red dial, and then you had a little, I guess it was green or blue, and you had to get the little needle to go as far to the right as you could. And I was getting nervous because the mayor is not the most patient. And so I did the best I could, and I did the interview, and I went back, and my heart sank because Bernie Sanders was as green as a Martian. I put it on television anyway because it saved me the wrath of the boss. Well, Bernie, I'm sure, thought it was a political conspiracy, and it took him years to forgive, if ever he did. It wasn't politics, it was just my technical incompetence at that time. But, Bernie is an interesting story because, some of my UVM college buddies have asked me, so, well, why didn't you leave Vermont and go, as so many reporters do, to big cities or to a network? And actually, I almost did 3 times. But, in the end, Vermont is home. And Vermont has supplied a lot of pretty great stuff if you do what I do over the last few years. And I just wanted to mention a couple of those things. We've had 2 presidential candidates who were at least briefly front runners for their party nomination from this tiny little state. Did Nebraska do those things? Dakotas? Texas? Don't think so. They've tried, but don't think so. I never forget turning the corner in downtown Seattle, and Sam Hemingway from the Burlington Free Press was there with me. We walked around the corner, and there were 15 or 20,000 people from Western Washington waiting to hear Howard Dean. And Sam, I said, can you believe they're all, imagine every citizen in Rutland in front of the Walmart in the parking lot, every single one waiting with wild enthusiasm to hear the governor of our state. It was something. And then 15 years later, Bernie Sanders did the same thing and was briefly, a big thing. Before that, in 2000, it was heady stuff for me, I'll tell you, at the time. A single member of the United States Senate, soon after the election, decided he'd had enough with his party, and he became an independent. Well, the Senate was 50-50 in those days, and that one act upended Washington, the Congress, and the new president's game plan. And that man was Jim Jeffords from Shrewsbury, just down the road. Since then, we shut down a nuclear power plant that really generated a lot of electricity, and now we're trying to get everybody to use electricity again to drive electric because it'll save the planet. We've legalized cannabis. I must have passed 5 stores on the way down here from Burlington this afternoon. I don't know how they stay in business. We have same-sex marriage. It's like, does anyone care anymore? It's like we're blasé about it. But I never saw any of those things coming 25 years ago. All stuff that I got to see and report firsthand in small towns across our state in my years on the job. The point is, you can have a great time covering the news business in this little state or in your hometown like Rutland. And that's a good thing. It's no secret that news gathering is not America's most admired profession these days. And some of that's well-deserved and self-inflicted, and some of it is a result of sort of the environment that we're in now. But I think in Vermont it's a lot better than in many other places. People are Washington may be toxic, and true story, I was visiting with our new Congresswoman the other day at an event, and I said, "So how's it going?" And she said, "Well, I walked into the House Oversight Committee room the other day, and a couple of members of the other party, True, they wouldn't look me in the eye." And I said, "Well, what do you mean? I mean, seriously? Oh, forget, they won't work with me. They won't look me in the eye." I mean, if that's where we are, it's a sad commentary. It's certainly not that way in Vermont and in Montpelier. I mean, I haven't been there as long as John Bloomer, but I've been at the State House for 25 years, off and on, and I'm happy to say that it's still pretty decent. But it seems to me that, your credibility is kind of all you have. And sort of like trust, it takes a long time to build and no time at all to destroy. So I always tell young reporters how important it is to be straight with people. Don't play gotcha with the TV camera. You can do it once, but you'll not be forgiven for it, and you shouldn't be. I mean, arrogance wears thin in a state like ours. And, if an interviewee, particularly newcomers who aren't used to lights and microphones and cameras, give them a little heads up about what you want to talk about. It'll bring their blood pressure down. It will probably help them think more clearly and speak in a way that will convey their ideas to your audience more clearly. And isn't that a good thing for everybody? It seems to me the answer is pretty clear. Try to get different voices into your coverage. Officials and business leaders and political leaders will always give you the factual, vertebrae of a story that you have to have. But, what about those who are impacted by stories? The person who can't afford to buy a house, the person who has lost a child to a fentanyl overdose. One of my professors used to call it, get the purple people into your story. I mean, the people that don't have power and influence and access. That's something that PEGTV can absolutely do. That's something that we can all do. People make fun of what we call MOS, which means men on the street. You walk up to people and say, "Hey, what do you think about what Congress is doing?" I mean, they just walked out of Walmart and they've got the tide under their arm and the kid in the shopping cart, and sometimes they give you a good answer and sometimes they don't, but they're real and they're not rehearsed or practiced, and it just adds some color to your coverage. Candidate debates and pre-election coverage, I mean, hats off to you, Tom, for what you do. The public access channels across our state are often first with local election results, and it's just an indispensable thing that you do for our folks. Marketing, I mean, it seems silly. In our case, we're a TV station, we sell advertising, and we are constantly trying to advertise ourselves because it's a fragmented landscape out there. There are 200 channels on my cable. I think I watch maybe 10. But the point is that you can get lost in this sea that technology now has created with so much fragmentation. So try to engage. In the old days, 60 Minutes used to, at the end of their show, they would have something called mailbag, and they would hear from 2 or 3 viewers. And it forms connections with your audience and shows that you are responsive and that you do want to hear from folks in the community. Obviously, with things like Front Porch Forum and bulletin boards, I mean, those are obviously, and social media, Facebook, ways to help communicate to your audience all the good stuff that you're doing. Because if people don't know to watch you, then what's the point? I mean, you're losing out on potential audience and all the benefit that comes from growing your audience. I read something I think it was in your annual report that Stephanie Wilson, your board chair, wrote, that your mission is to champion an engaged, connected, and informed community. And I thought about that again on the way down Route 7. I think it was 18 miles an hour through Middlebury. And I thought, that is as noble a pursuit as you could possibly imagine in the United States of America, to champion an engaged, connected, and informed community. So I would just say, stick with it. From an outsider's perspective, one with Southern Vermont roots, but as a non-Rutlander, I acknowledge, bravo. That's fantastic to aspire and to deliver for the 20,000 people of this county. Here's to your next 30 years. Thank you again for having me.
I have to follow that. Thank you very much, Stewart. That was really fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's hear it again for Stewart Ledbetter. Send me your application there and your resume. Everybody that works in Vermont communications, I think, has a Bernie Sanders story. I just want to share this with you quickly. As you know, we're allowed to help politicians, voice their platform and come in and tell everyone that they're running for election. Before Bernie was Bernie that he is now, he used to visit with us frequently. And one time we hadn't seen him for a while. When he came in, we were like, okay, Mr. Sanders, remember, you're allowed to talk about your platform, but we can't do political commercials, which means you're not allowed to say, vote for me. Bernie said, is it okay if I say don't vote for the other guy? That's my Bernie Sanders. That's a true story. Dessert is served, so please feel free to go up and have dessert. It's going to be delicious. So right now in our presentation is time for the Romeo Award. Romeo is the puppy that when I first started working here, Michael J. Valentine, the executive director at the time, was very well connected to the Guiding Eyes for the Blind program. And he would take in these puppies and raise them to the point where they could be trained to help people with visual impairments. So the first one we ever had, his name was Romeo, and he really, really made an impact on us. So if you ever want to have a very cheery workplace, and you can't ever be in a bad mood, get a little black Labrador puppy on location. He actually makes an appearance in the highlight video. So this award is very special to us, and we present it every year to someone who has dedicated a lot of time and effort to really bolster PEGTV. It's not going to be a surprise that this year's recipient is Anna White. So we have a little figurine of a black Labrador for you to put on your desk, a certificate that Jim Boughton designed, and you said you didn't want a trophy, you'd rather have this electronic digital picture frame. I went through the liberty of filling it with pictures of me. So you can come up after and get that, or you can come up now, whatever you like. If you want to come up now, we'll give you a round of applause. So, yeah.
Thank you. I've become a minimalist, so I get rid of several things each day, but I'm going to hang on to this.
Okay. I'm glad my HR person didn't want to say anything. So we're at the Hall of Fame inductions now. And let me tell you, to be involved with PEGTV for 30 years, knowing what I know now, there's a lot of footage that I wish I would have kept. I would have had no idea that there would eventually be a format where you could share local footage with the whole world. So if someone grew up in Rutland and you could put a game on this medium called YouTube, and they can watch it anywhere they want. A strange thing happened. We started out in the basement of Adelphia Cable when I got hired, and we had to move out of there quickly. We moved to Stafford Technical Center in 1996, and we didn't have any storage. So we made a deal with the Rutland City School Board, and they let us keep a bunch of stuff in their basement. And it got long since forgot about, and a staff member from Longfellow mentioned it to me about 6 months ago. She goes, you know, you still have a bunch of stuff down there. A lot of it is the footage that you're seeing on this highlight reel, 25, 30-year-old footage dating as far back as to 1985. So the origins of public access go back really, really a long ways. John Bloomer, you were part of the early days. Terry J. was part of the early days. Long before my time. I was still in high school in 1985. So we almost threw all of it out because some of it was moldy, and then I thought the attic to City Hall was scary until I saw the basement of Longfellow. So one day me and Rich went down and it was moldy. We're throwing it in the dumpster, which we had permission to do, and the stuff started popping out at me. I'm like, oh, there's a Rutland MSJ game. Oh, there's a political forum between Jeffords and somebody else. Oh, there's a show with Bruce Nelson. So then we stopped. I'm like, okay, let's stop throwing it away. I want to keep some of this stuff. We had a lot of it, we didn't even have the ability to bump it over. We didn't have a 3/4 inch deck. I didn't have a high heat deck. A lot of it was on VHS. We found over 200 games down there that have been remastered. I'm talking about it to Dave Giancola, and I'm like, geez, I wish I kept a 3/4 inch deck and a high heat deck. And he goes, well, I still have those that belong to you. So apparently, we let Dave borrow those many years ago, and he never gave them back. So he gave them back, and we were able to bump over a lot of stuff, and that's where you're seeing the Sports Rewind and the Video Vault. So as I go through the Hall of Fame inductions, like I said, please get dessert. We have it worked out, so a staff member is going to present you with your medal, so if you want to just stand up or raise your hand, you don't have to go back and forth to the podium. You can certainly give remarks at the end if you want. We'll leave the mic open. If you want to save your applause till the end, you can, or you can applaud in between. And we're going to do this in alphabetical order, so it really has nothing to do with the significance of how much content got submitted by each producer. I need a drink. So first off, talk show hosts, nonprofit promotions, a new program called It's All About the Arts, current board vice president. I found you on footage that's decades, going back for decades. You've been involved with us for a very, very, very long time. Hall of Fame induction, Jerry Berkheimer-Rooker. Yep. Some of these are going to be posthumously because we've lost these folks over the years. Eileen Blackman was another very, very active producer. She came in the studio and would interview anybody we asked her to. She'd go to First Night with us and do interviews on the street. And she is also in the highlight reel, Eileen Blackman. Yeah. She did a program on her own called 15 on the Arts back when we were 15. So she was very, very member of the family, a very good member of the family. This next fella, for some reason, he calls his work Pretty Shaky Productions. I don't know why, because he does a fantastic job. He even went so far as to come in and examine all of our field equipment. And then he went out and bought all of it himself. So he went out on shoots, covered graduations, and did sports with multiple cameras. So he would come back with a multi-shot sports event, hand it in high definition, and that fella is here tonight, Arlen Bloodworth. And speaking of the legislature, we had this program on for many years. It was called Legislative Update, and it was in Legislative Update because it was renewed once a week. It was topical. This fellow was on our board on and off for many years. I think you may even be like one of the first board members we've ever had. Great counsel, just a great guy to have around. He's always there to help us. He was instrumental in the lease agreement between us and Stafford Technical Center. We have a tour of the State House, which I hope we find that footage one day and get that back on the air. John Bloomer Jr., ladies and gentlemen. So if you look at that schedule from 1993 that I found, there is one program that has been on the air for 30 years in the same time slot. Remarkable. The original producers of that aren't in the area anymore, but we really have to give a big round of applause for Calvary Bible Church on the air for 30 years. So we have a representative here for Calvary. Yeah, congratulations on that, by the way. That's a remarkable achievement. Thank you. This next guy, when I started playing these old tapes, I couldn't believe it. He would travel to Brattleboro, to Bennington, away games from JV and varsity, and he would often say, well, we missed the first quarter because there's a giant snowstorm and nobody's on the road except for me. Well, we started late. This fella is amazing with sports commentary. He's got a very smooth voice. He knows all the kids' names, and again goes back 30 years or so. I couldn't believe the number of games that I found that had this fella on it. Mr. Mark Carbonell. He used to work at a local grocery store, and I'd stop and we'd talk about games until my ice cream started melting. I'm like, Mark, I gotta go. Another founding board member that we lost many years ago, Joe Corsell, could do it all. He could do camera, he could do technical direction, he could edit. He taught me right away that I always had too much headroom in my shot. And that's a fellow you want around. You want a guy like that around that's going to tell you what you're doing wrong in a nice way so you can learn. He actually saved me from having to take a second job because when I first got hired, it was on a part-time basis, and that wasn't enough. So I applied for another job somewhere else, and I got it. And Joe Corsell called me in like 9 o'clock at night. He goes, you didn't hear this from me, but you're not going to need that other job. So Joe Corsell, ladies and gentlemen, and he's, yeah. And he's also done so much for us that he's the fellow that the Corsell Scholarship is named after in his honor. So, let's see. The art show, Zing, this lady produced shows for almost 2 decades, almost on a weekly basis. She brought in many, many, many artists, musicians, painters, sculptors. She couldn't be here with us tonight, but she was really, really a mainstay at PEGTV. Mary Crowley. Yeah. We have another show that's been on the air for a couple decades now, and the fellow that founded it he just loved PEGTV. He loved all of us, and he could tell you anything you wanted to know about the history of Rutland. Jim Davidson. Chamber Focus, Brock Talk, board president, live election night coverage, just basically all around anything you need in Rutland, give Tom a call, and he can, if he doesn't know somebody, he can put you in touch with somebody that does know. Really, he's probably almost been at PEGTV more hours than me sometimes, I think. Also, I've never seen Tom not get it on the first take. He really does get it on the first take. So, Tom Donahue. Yeah. Some of the most popular programming we've had, this fella has done research on local family heritage, and he even did My Family Tree on one episode. He continued on the legacy of Historically Speaking, which is a wonderful show. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, it's just a marvelous program. And he puts a lot of homework in, very attention to detail with it, oriented. Michael Dwyer for Historically Speaking. The Giancola family really helped us with the new location that we're in right now. We were able to sit down at the table with them and talk about what we needed. Joe and Barb Giancola basically let us design our current location to our specs, to what we needed, what we wanted. Dave Giancola is our current landlord. We couldn't ask for a better guy. He was here earlier today. Again, he's been helpful with technical things. He's very well knowledgeable in the film and TV industry. He's helped us install a lot of equipment. He's produced promotionals for us. David Giancola. Still here? Yeah. I had an internship at WJGR in 1993, and one of the folks there that was very nice to me, and also very nice when I did stuff at Bush Productions, also came in and helped us with on-the-air hosting and putting together some programs promoting nonprofits. Everybody knows Nancy Gordon. Tom Haley has recorded on every single format that's on that table, probably except for the piece of slate. He's recorded at all of our locations, as far as I know. I think I worked with Tom at every one of the buildings. He was the last one to record a show at the Adelphia Cable location and the first one to record at Howe Center. We weren't even set up yet, and Tom came in and did a show. Very nice long-running show called Haley's Comet, among other things. Tom Haley. Jay and Nan Hart were the first married couple to both be the board presidents. They were very helpful with organizing PEGTV and writing some of the bylaws, and just being all-around general board presidents and good board members. They couldn't be here tonight because they now live out of town. Jay and Nan Hart. And this next guy, I don't even think I need to say anything about because everyone knows. I found all these tapes, all these recordings, these old games, started bumping them over. It was very difficult because, Rutland plays MSJ, MSJ plays Rutland. It was very confusing. So I started texting this fella. I'm like, well, this one was played at such and such, blah, blah, blah. It's snowing out. And Jack would be like, oh, that's 1991. Like, how do you know that? And he's like, well, that is, because they won it 3 years in a row, and all these stats start coming out. If you ever watch any of these vintage games that we have on, pay attention to the detail. We were so lucky to have a guy like that on the air, and they figured out a secret to do it, because he was live on WSYB when he was doing this. And they figured out that you could take the earphone out of the radio and put it into the audio in of the camera. So you could be anywhere in the school, anywhere on the field, and you could have Jack Healy's commentary going right on the tape. The only thing we had to do was stop during commercials because we didn't have commercial content on it. But really, truly amazing. And what you did for the kids to go out on the field after and interview and know all their names. I mean, I don't know how you did it. The plays happened so fast. You never missed I have yet to watch a game where you missed a trick. The only time I got a little upset with you, there was one game where your co-host says, I think I smell electronics burning. Jack goes, well, I hope it's PEGTV stuff and not ours. Jack Healy, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the important things in life really is to try to figure out what you want to do. When you're at that age where you can't figure it out, it's hard. You get to a point where you're like, I'm not sure what I want to do. So I had this internship at WJJR, and I met this guy, Terry J. And I just liked his mojo. He had this great rapport with everybody in the community, a little bit of a smart aleck. You know, he got on the air and got people laughing. He just really, really seemed to enjoy himself. And it just was fun to be around. The chemistry at WJJR, it was just fun. Everybody liked each other. It was like a TV show unto itself. So then I decided, I think I'm in the right place. I think radio may be it. And then Terry walks up to me and says, I'm going on vacation to Ireland. Can you come in at 4:30 in the morning and record the weathers? And I said, I think I'm going to go into TV. So this guy really was a mentor to me. It really helped me make a decision to get into the communications field and pursue it as a career. Again, my first project was Stuff a Bus with Terry J. and Nancy. So ladies and gentlemen, Terry J, really can't say enough about you. Honestly, man. This other fella, most of the Raha games that we found were recorded by this guy. He was just at everything, Raha A, Raha B, Raha Squirts. There's like many, many different levels of Raha. His productions were called Stream of Consciousness Productions, and his voice is on everything, but he never made an appearance on video. But I think he is here, Jim Kale. Yeah. Jim here? Yeah, there he is. Yeah. I don't care what Ernie says about you, Jim. Raha, Shrine Bowl, Relay for Life. Santa Claus could take notes from how nice this guy was. He just was the nicest fella. Happy, he just had an overwhelmed joy around children. I walked into a local ice cream parlor one day with a PEGTV shirt on, and the girl working there, probably a teenager, she goes, "You work at PEGTV? You must know Dr. LaPlaca." You know, and years ago there was a steakhouse up north called Sadi's, you remember? I was just getting done. I was on a date. We were just leaving. Dr. LaPlaca was just leaving, but he left before me. I went to pay the bill, and the guy behind the register said, "Yeah, Dr. LaPlaca paid it." And one time I went to visit my mom. She had a brief stay in the hospital. Dr. LaPlaca had nothing to do with why my mom was there, but when I walked into the room, he was there comforting my mom. Just a sweet, sweet guy. Dr. LaPlaca, Tom LaPlaca. Yep. Tai Chi for Health, World of Martial Arts. Again, just about every PEGTV location, this guy did a show. He's not here tonight, so I can't talk about him. I asked him one time, "Rick, what can you show me where I don't have to really get involved, but I can subdue somebody quickly?" And I didn't know it, but he was going to use me for an example, and he just grabbed my hand, and I went down really fast. And I never asked him that question again. Rick Morello. Brian Mayhew was everywhere. He could do any sport. Anytime he wanted to do a special event, Brian was there. He was a master at hooking up the equipment. He was an all-around good guy. I never saw him without a smile on his face, and we really lost him too early. His wife, Peg, was always there with him. Sometimes she would pick up the camera and shoot footage. A family member. When I first got to PEGTV, it was like they came with the place. And I really think about the guy a lot, and Peg is here tonight on behalf, both of them are Hall of Fame inductees, Peg and Brian Mayhew. Yeah. Literally, this fellow recorded over 1,000 games. Any sport, any time of day, sub-varsity, varsity, college level, high school level, JV. And there were times when I would come in at 7:30 in the morning, there would already be footsteps to the drop box there'd be 10 or 12 games in there over the weekend. Really, really remarkable. This guy could video and do commentary and look at the program all at the same time, which is very difficult to do. Jerry Munger. Bruce Nelson was the first executive director for cable access in Rutland. I did take the VIP course with him, and we lost him too early. He really, really got the ball going with public access early on. I was fortunate to know him. He was just a sweet guy. I think of him a lot now, too. And we did find some footage of Bruce, so Bruce is actually in there, too. Bruce Nelson. Yeah, that's right. Ted Pendleton was our first board president, and he stayed on longer than I think any other board president we had, just because we needed to get things going, and he didn't want to abandon. He was president when we moved, and I don't know if you've ever moved a TV station, but if you ever get in a situation where you have to move a TV station, Stewart, quit your job. It is awful. It's awful. I've done it twice, and that Bruce was there when we had to take all of that heavy, bulky equipment. Andrew, you were there for one of them. It's not fun. And then you get it all hooked up, and of course something doesn't work. You got to go back and start over. So it's just remarkable. So I want to just hand it to Ted for staying on so long, because he didn't have to. So Ted Pendleton. This next inductee, when I first started working there, handed in Italian opera at CSJ. So I worked on Italian opera, and then the next night at the College of St. Joseph, they had professional wrestling. And I'm like, wow, what a versatile place that is to go to college there. But also a mainstay. I always enjoyed when you brought the kids in from the school and helped us with CSJ Campus Report. Sometimes we would even go across the street and just enjoy each other's company amongst you and your staff and the PEGTV staff. Now you're still involved. I mean, after 30 years, you still come into PEGTV, and that's a remarkable too. Joanne Riley, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I really don't know what to say about this next fella. He could get you in anywhere. If you need to get anywhere inside of Rutland as far as sports goes, you contact Ernie Sewell. He got me into championship games anywhere. I mean, if you're walking with Ernie anywhere in Rutland, people just let you in for free. He had this magic thing about him, and I don't know what it was, and I wish I had it. And he really did produce a lot for us. Early on, in some of those old tapes, they always say camera, Ernie Sewell's on camera, Ernie Sewell's on camera, Ernie Sewell's on camera. He's just an all-around really good guy. If you haven't known him, you need to know Ernie Sewell. Yeah, Ernie Sewell. Yeah. Graduations, health-wise reports, a long time on and off again board member. He would serve terms on the board member and take a year off, come back. Would always kid around with us. He was one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. He would play guitar for us and sing at our annual meetings. I really get choked up when I talk about him, because he was just a happy guy, just this fun guy to have around, a technical marvel, because he was already versed in the video production company, could help you with anything. He really would help you with anything. He was at PEGTV all the time. He really was a sweet guy. Scott Switzer. The next guy was another one that had recorded in every single location, from Adelphia Cable to Stafford Technical Center to Hal Center. Trademark entry. So every time he walked into PEGTV, it was nice to see everybody's hard at work here. And that's every time. So if you turn your back on him, he would steal chocolates out of your office. He'd love to just stay and visit with us all day. It was just fun to have him around. Democrats Today, civically speaking, he did over 100 episodes of one, hundreds of episodes of the other. The Rutland Herald did many featured articles on him. Deep roots in Rutland City. He was a police officer once. He served on the Board of Aldermen a few times. Joe Tilden. Yeah. The executive director that hired me and started off my career ran PEGTV for a really long time. Made a lot of connections, got us into the new realm. Really started us off on the right path. Made a lot of decisions. Attracted good board members, attracted great staff. We had a lot of fun. And just to give you a general idea of how things went between Mike and the rest of the staff, early on working with him, we had to go out and buy some extension cords. And so we went to the hardware store, and the fella came up and says, "Can I help you find something?" And Mike says, "Well, we're looking for extension cords." So he took us to the extension cords and says, "Well, how long do you need it?" And Mike said, "About 7 years." So it was like that every day with Mike Valentine. It was just, yeah. Very popular show, Rutland County Humane Society Pet Partners. Helps us with technical aspects, right there all the time. Helped us hook up equipment when we were moving. Helps me with the Halloween parade live. Andrew's live on the street with the close-up view of the floats. Got your son working for us now. I think your daughter's going to be the boss one day. The second husband and wife to be board president at 2 different times. Me and Stephanie go way back. I met her when I was attending college at Castleton State at the time. I would have failed British literature if it wasn't for Stephanie, so I might not have got hired because my GPA wouldn't have been as high. So who knows? Stephanie and Andrew Wilson, ladies and gentlemen. A nice little side note was Mike Valentine introduced Stephanie and Andrew to each other, so there's that connection there.
Actually, Romeo.
Yeah, was it Romeo? Yeah, Romeo. Yeah, and I was in my 30s when they came and took Romeo away, and Stephanie was working for us at the time. Both of us just started bawling. So that's the side effect to having a puppy on the site when they come and take them. I'm a grown man. I'm crying at work here. So I want to say thank you on behalf of all of you, because what we have on the air comes from all of you folks, all of you producers. You really, really represent what Rutland is all about, and we're a reflection of the community. All of this that you see here is a reflection of the community with your content on the air. It's just a wonderful place of work. I feel privileged to know all of you and to interact with you. It's wonderful to see everybody here. So thank you again, and I appreciate the Hall of Fame inductions, and I'm glad you came here. You certainly all deserve it. So thank you again very much. Yeah. Where are we at, Steph?
I think I'm supposed to adjourn.
All right, let me clean up my mess and you can come up. Board President Stephanie Wilson.
Well, that was a trip down memory lane tonight. Really nice to have everyone here with us. It was really special. Thank you, Stewart, for coming so far to join us tonight, too. And you also took us down memory lane, some of those big news events to think back over the years. And I want to thank Nancy again and Tom and the whole PEGTV staff and the Southside staff for giving us such a beautiful night tonight. This was really a special event, so thank you. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn our annual meeting and our 30th anniversary celebration. Thank you, Sherry. And a second? And then All in favor, we can say good night. And the board will just meet briefly to have a quick little meeting of our own. And thanks for joining us, and hope to see you next time.